Okay, so we want to know how to choose a good garden sign. So myself, Barb Walker, Beth Umbuger, and Becky Novi will be giving our experiences about it. There's mainly two different groups. There's permanent signs and there's temporary signs. So most of the permanent signs are going to be professional or commercial use in that. The temporary signs are do-it-yourself, so anybody can do that. Permanent signs, I'm going to say that if you have a garden that you want others to visit, I would say permanent signs would be better than the temporary signs. Temporary signs are good for those people that are just going to be looking at your own garden and you want to keep track of the plants in it and that if nobody else is going to be viewing it. Usually the professional signs are real waterproof. The temporary signs might be weather resistant or weatherproof or neither. Then both the permanent and the temporary signs can be used for either small or large collections. The permanent signs, which I think you've probably seen around the area, is usually a label for one specific plant. It usually gives you the common name, the Latin name, and maybe one or two other items depending upon how much text they have on the sign. For temporary signs, it can be for one plant species or it didn't get in there, a family, like say this is the area for goldenrod or something like that. For permanent signs, usually you only have to create the sign once because it hopefully should last several years. Now the temporary signs, you might need to make new signs each year, depending upon what procedure you use, what the material is for the sign and that. So that's generally a more limited lifespan of them. The permanent signs are usually on some kind of stake which doesn't shift, like whether people, pets can often shift the temporary signs because they're temporary. And the permanent signs are often plain looking, but some of the temporary signs, they can make real spiffy in that, but sometimes that the sign itself is what the person sees, not the plant itself. Permanent signs generally stay legible for more than one season or 1 year. However, temporary signs, unless it's like painted or something like that on a rock or something, they might become illegible within a year, especially like wooden ones and that. Okay, permanent signs generally cost money. Temporary signs are generally cheap or free. The permanent signs are often made from unrecycled or virgin materials. The temporary signs are often recycled or repurposed items, say like window blinds, rocks with them painted the name on them, or ends of metal cans, or anything else that you can think of. Some people prefer recycled or repurposed items so they don't take more stuff out of the environment. Permanent signs are often made of stainless steel, aluminum, or a combination of metals, which means they won't rust and they won't bend easily. However, non-metal materials may degrade or break sooner. Wooden labels absorb moisture, they bleed easily. If you have a marker pen or something on them, then they'll bleed easily once it gets wet. And they often rot quickly, which is what wood is supposed to do anyways. Plastic labels, like from window blinds or other sources, they can easily get lost or buried. They get brittle, often get brittle from sunshine, and they'll break. and their writing fades with time. Sometimes sooner than later, it fades. Now, for the permanent signs, there are fewer techniques to make the signs. For instance, a lot of them use the laser engraving, and it's just basically either on aluminum or stainless steel or something like that. So there's not too many different ways to do it. However, with the temporary signs, because you're either using recycled or repurposed items, there are all sorts of techniques to make those signs. And they'll be more or less unique. So it depends upon what you'd like. Now, things to consider when you're choosing a sign. You want to know how large the sign is itself, because and you need to see how far away the people have to be able to read it. So I know sometimes they've got different size signs, like a small one and a larger one. How many lines of text? That also goes with the size of the sign, because you can get more lines of text on larger signs, of course, and you can make the font bigger. So another consideration is the type and the size of the font. You probably don't want really scrolling type font or anything. And you want the size of the font to be reasonable so that people can see it from a distance, say like 3-5 foot or something like that. Then you need to choose the color of the sign. Often they're black, and then the laser engraving is either white or silver or something like that. So it's a very good contrast. Then you want to know the color of the text too, if you want to change that into orange, yellow, whatever. And you need to know how visible they are due to the sizes and the colors in the sign. Also, you want to know the height of the stake above the ground, if it's located in the ground itself or it's attached to a tree somehow, because some garden side companies make it specifically to go around trees and that. One advantage that some of them, the professionals, are doing, the permanent signs, you can tilt the nameplate at a 45-degree angle and it stays stationary. That means hopefully the wind or a dog or coon or whatever doesn't move it. And if it's at a good angle, then hopefully the sunshine in that won't get to it. You also need to know what the stake is made of. Often the permanent ones are some kind of metal, which is good. So they're not going to be able to rot or anything like the wood does. Now, will it get shifted out of position by people or the weather or pets? Oh, well, I guess I really didn't proof this that good. Okay. You want to have a sign that does not easily rust or get illegible, because if it gets illegible, then that's more time and effort and often money if you need to make another one. If it's possible that you might be moving the plant itself to another location, the sign should be easy to take out and then put in again into the different location. Okay, so from these different types of signs, the permanent versus the temporary, it seems like permanent signs seem to be the best choice if you want to show it off to other people, like if you want to have a pollinator garden for the public to view. But if you prefer it for your own garden, that's fine too. And laser engraving is permanent and usually does not fade with time. I found that most of the time the laser engraving is real good. I haven't found any signs so far where there's problems with the laser engraving in that. Now, these are some engraving companies with metal signs. We don't endorse any of them. I will put this up on our listserv, so you can take a look at it yourself. The only one that I've used myself is plantsmap.com, and I'll go over that briefly at the end of my talk. And I think Beth and Barb has maybe used one or two of these. They'll let you know. Okay, so you could also have interpretive signs, not just one sign that tells you the common name and the Latin name, and sometimes the geographic location. They'll be more expensive, of course, but I'll show you some of the ones that were from the Virginia State Arboretum in Boyce. And I took them when, I guess it was a couple of years ago, when we had the Virginia Native Plant Society annual conference up in Warrenton. So this one is talking about pollination and people, why people should be concerned about pollinators. It shows that a lot of our fruit crops are especially susceptible to pollinators. So if we lose some of the pollinators, then we're going to have less food for ourselves. And then it gives you some suggestions in that too. And these are awfully nice signs in that. So you can see to the right of it, it shows some of the other stakes. They had put them like in a triangle, I think 3 in one location, and they're all facing outwards. So that's good for people just to walk around all 3 signs in that. So that's one way of doing it. Okay, here's another interpretive sign from the Arboretum. Grow your own pollinator gardens, and it's got a whole bunch of different suggestions there. It looks like it has a butterfly puddler there too. Talking about no pesticides. Yeah, so they give you all sorts of different stuff there. Then this is another one they have for some flowers for the birds, and they're specifically talking about the hummingbirds here. And the middle one, you probably can't read it, but it says that insects can't see the red flowers in that, so the hummingbird can. So they're going to be the after the nectar in that, or whatever they get. So there's different pollinators in that. Okay, this is one of the signs from the Duke University in North Carolina. This is the typical sign with the laser engraving. In this case, it has the Latin name, common name, and the family name. And they've got a lot of nice signs in their garden and that. Okay, this is an example of a fancy sign. So it's about the wreath goldenrod, and then it's showing you some of the insect larvae that uses the goldenrod. And this is a case where well, you can see the flowers and everything. So I don't know if it's going to be a distraction or not, or if there is no sign there, then they probably wouldn't have seen it. So.
Where was that one, Brenda?
Was
it at Duke?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was from there or from Boyce or not. I don't remember anymore. Okay, this is a sign. Well, you really can't see it too much, from plantsmap.com, which I got 20 of them for the Seeds Pollinator Garden in Blacksburg at their nature center there. They had Rosemary Sod and started the garden back in maybe 2013, 2012 with Master Gardener's help. And then when she moved down to North Carolina temporarily with her mother, master naturalist kind of worked in the garden and that then. Because there's a lot of goldenrod and everything else in there. It's like 5 foot deep in that. So, so what I had is I had the common name, the Latin name, and on the bottom left-hand side, you probably can't see it, but the Virginia Master Naturalist paid to have a emblem, logo, whatever it's called, where it tells you that this is a Virginia Master Naturalist sign. And then on the right-hand side, it has the code thingy. What's that called? QR code. And that, if you can look at it with your smartphone, if you've got a smartphone, then you can get to it there, and it'll send you to the website for the Seeds Pollinator Garden, plantsmap.com. And I got the Master Naturalist to pay for those 20 signs, so that was good. So we're just helping between different organizations and that. Okay, so let me see if I can get back to. Oh, okay. I just want to talk briefly about the plantsmap.com. And some people will think that it's too complicated. So if you don't like this, that's fine. We're just going to give you different options, and then you can decide which ones you like. Now, they do have a tiered subscription service with this website. Apparently they weren't making enough money when it was free in that. So, but if you have less than 25 plants listed in your website here, then that's free. And of course, there'll be some features that you can't use. That's only for the paying ones in that. And basically the one that I did for the Seeds Garden on Wharton Street, that was only 20 signs, so I got into the freebie level in that, but it's basically a skeleton thing. I haven't done too much with it or anything. But I found this one with the Virginia Tech College of Natural Resources Environment. I would assume that includes Susie's in front of Cheatham Hall. So it gives you a website, if there's a website. And then it gives you like a little brief blurb about the college. And then it looks like they created it over 2 years ago. And then it lists the plants that they have. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And then collections. Sometimes people or organizations that have large collections, like several hundred, they'll divvy them up into specific categories, or like they put Japanese ones there, or they put water gardens and the other thing. So that would be like for the collections and that. And then this is telling you who's in the network for it. And there's a one thing here for events. If you happen to have events, which I could do for the seeds, generally in the springtime, they have a open house, which I don't think they had one this year. Of course, they didn't have one last year. So this is a satellite map. Now let me see if I can use, oops, wrong way, of course. Okay, where are we? Woohoo, where are we? Well, I've managed to lose myself. Oh, well, too bad. Anyways, let's see if we can go up to the plants thing here. Are you going to let us or not? Okay, so you can do all sorts of things, put all sorts of things in here. You can put down like your plant's history, when it was bought, where you bought it from, where it's located in the collection. And they've got some more satellite maps here, which are nice. Then you can put different photos in. So see, they've got some for the fall color and that. You could put plant details in here. And some of these details, if you're in the paying subscription, you can get those transferred from the main database into your plant details here. This one, it says where it was required for the source, Ramilton Farm, and it was balled and burlapped. The date planted, how many, and if it's still alive. So if it dies, you can put that here too. And then it gives you the taxonomic classification. Also, you could put in growing details. So say if it needs like wet soils or sunshine or shade or whatever. And then you could put in notes too. Oh, ouch, get your claws off me. Ouch. Ah. Kitty cat on my lap. Okay, let me see if I can get to the seeds thing. Okay, go to home. So as you can see, this is kind of complicated for some people, but if you like doing a whole bunch of things on a website and that, this would be a good possibility for you. Okay, so seeds, and I'm trying to remember how much the yeah, see, there's the QR code thing there. So that will bring you to our website within. Okay, let's see, go up here. Organizations, it's in there somewheres. Because I never remember what seeds for. Seek, education, explore, and discover. So that says we've got 20 plants listed. And then it gives you a little bit about the seed center. I don't have anything for news. I don't know why it's not showing me all of the plants and that. I don't have any photos of them or anything. So basically it's a skeleton thing, but you can always flesh it out if you're interested. No, that won't do. Okay. Any questions about my part of the talk? Okay, so I'll stop sharing. Do you want to go next, Barb?
Sure.
Okay, at the bottom, you'll, oh, wait a minute. I got to make you a, what do you call though, I think. Just a second. Oops, okay, it's that Barb. So let me see. Make co-host. Okay, so you should have at the bottom of the screen a green square with an arrow and it says share screen.
Okay.
To hit that.
Okay.
Now in the lower left, if you need to have sound from your computer, you need to check mark that. Okay.
I don't need that.
Okay. Then is your stuff on your computer or somewhere, as I assume? Okay, so then hit whatever you want there.
Okay. All right. Slideshow. Okay. You're seeing it?
Yep.
Okie doke. So for the pollinator garden at Pandapas Pond, we decided to get we had some budget from the Forest Service. This is on National Forest land, if you don't know where it is, but we had a little budget at the time, and we decided to go with some signs, the traditional ones that Brenda was talking about, like I'd seen at Han Garden. I found the company I used was called Precision Signs, and it was in Rochester, New York. And I found them just by Googling and finding some pictures I liked, and they wound up doing a really good job for us. And I've been real happy with them. Their website is just www.botanicalsigns.com. And these are the anodized aluminum signs. They have a 15-year guarantee. I've had our oldest signs are almost 10 years old, and I can't, there's no wear or just, no problems at all with them. Okay. Some reason I can't seem to make it go through. How do I change my screen? Oh, there we go.
Did you skip?
Yeah, it skipped.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So that these are examples of the signs we have at the pollinator garden. The first batch of signs I got are the black background with silver text up in the right corner. And I got 12-inch signs in the beginning. The second group of signs I got were a little bit taller, and I got the lighter color, the silver background with black text. Things I liked about this particular company was you could use the font that you want. You could choose your own design. There was no preset formula for the sign. They were not obtrusive. I didn't want it to, be more obvious than the signs, than the plants themselves. And I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But and then we wanted to put the Forest Service shield on the sign, because I have heard of people stealing these little ID signs and taking them home for their own garden. They're relatively expensive compared to some of the temporary signs, and you do have to wait. It takes about, I think it takes about 6 weeks every time I've ordered mine. But like I said, we've been real happy with them. The information we put on them is the Latin name, the common name, and excuse me, and if they have a particular benefit, if they're a host plant for a monarch or just a nectar plant. When you're buying these, you buy the little plaques, the sign itself, and you buy the stake separately. You can get, what we got was the 1x3 inch sign and a 12-inch stake in the beginning. Found out that plants grow and start hiding the signs. So we went with some taller signs second go around. So the price for the initial signs were $250, and the stakes were $250, and the sign itself was $380. So just under $7 for the smaller sign. $630. One thing that happened with some of the signs, some of the signs I originally bought was the plants. The signs lasted, but the plants didn't. And so when that happened, I wound up making some homemade signs and then putting them on the stake. So, it doesn't look as good, but it is a temporary fix until you can get more signs or have the budget to do that. So, and then the other thing I did was on the right, the pawpaw trees were donated. That sign was made by Sign Spot in Blacksburg and then attached to one of the stakes from Precision Signs. So some of the lessons learned in my attempt to be not overly obtrusive, I think I had a lot of people squinting and looking for signs. They really are kind of hard to see if they're very far. We have a rail between our people, our visitors, and our plants. And if that sign is towards the back of our plant bed, it's pretty hard to see. And that also, like I said, the taller signs, the 18-inch stakes, seem to be a lot better for showing up for people, and that I found that the silver background with black type seems to show up a little bit better, a little bit easier to read. Now, what I did, the font on these signs could have been bigger. Again, I was trying not to be too obtrusive, but I'm not so sure I did the right thing there. So I think the font could have been bigger. Okay. Oh, okay. So one of the cons I said about those metal precision signs was that they're a little bit expensive, and $7, $8, $9 for the taller ones. But as I said, they're 10 years old and they still are, they're lasting and looking good. And these little guys, you know, so I've seen people put labels, nicer labels on these, but even still, the snow and animals and things like that, they just do not look good for very long. And so, you know, they're cheap, but they fade. They're just not a good alternative. This is another example of the type of signs that we have that I got from Sign Spot. It's a vinyl on aluminum. And we have used, you know, we have quite a few 8.5 by 12 signs that have different information on it. And those have lasted pretty good too, maybe 5 years. They start to curl a bit around the edges, but they, you know, they will do any kind of sign you want. You make it up yourself and they just photocopy it somehow and magically put it on this they call them Diabond signs. And I think like an 8.5 by 8 and by 11.5 is probably $25 or so. Yeah, okay, $35. We use them on our on the rails to signify which bed is which. Then another thing we've done is some homemade signs, which actually people seem to like. When the plants are in bloom, we put up these little signs that I make on my computer and then laminate, and we put them on the rails so that the blooming plants that are attracting the most views and questions, all they have to do is look down at the split rail and they'll see what's blooming and what the name of that plant is.
That's a cute little lizard there, Barb.
Yeah, I know. It's a great picture. We do try to take these down so that we don't have too many up at one time. Once this plant stops blooming, we try to get them down. But this is not maintenance free. You know, there's a lot of time on the computer spent making these and keeping track. And that's it for me. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, you stop screen sharing then?
Okay.
Should be at the top somewheres, I think.
Am I still?
No, I don't think so. I see you, so I think you must be out of the screen sharing.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Beth, do you want to go next?
Sure.
Beth?
So you want me to click on screen share? Is that what you want?
Yeah. Oh, wait, I haven't changed you for co-host. So let me do that first. Just a second. Make co-host. Okay, you should be good to go for your screen sharing then.
Can you see me? Is that working?
Yep.
Hello? Oh, okay. Becky's not, I think Becky's on vacation. I sent her an email, but I think she's on vacation. So, because she made some of the signs. But I started thinking about how signage for me has been really frustrating. And a lot of people want me to do it, and I try to do it, but so I think to me it's about community of plants and people too, that it's kind of parallel. So I tried the signs that Barbara was talking about. They worked pretty well for a while. They are cheaper. My problem was we tried taking them up in the so they overwinter in the place out of the weather, but then that's a lot of work. And I was also cheap too about what I don't want to spend a lot of money on a sign, but I think Barbara's right that in the long run, if you have a plant that you know is going to survive in your garden, then it's probably worth it to pay more for the sign. But you can see how these got bent, they slide down. This is from Paul Everlast that you had listed, but they're very cheap, and the printing was, I guess they lasted some time. And then Becky did this for us. These were done by professionals. This sign, and they were very nice signs, but they didn't last. They just started peeling off. I don't know why. And I prefer information signs rather than plant ID signs. And I like Barbara's idea. I might use that with just the temporary sign that's something that's blooming. But it didn't work for some reason. I don't know why. But she also at the same time made me some temporary signs. They've lasted 2 years. They look great. And it's just something she printed in the office. It wasn't very expensive. And they've been fine. They haven't faded particularly much. So I'm going to continue to get Becky to fix this for me. And I was hoping she would be here to explain it. But she showed me that it's just a lamination machine, and she printed them. She does good pictures and all. So this is just an old sign that you use in nurseries that has that they use for pricing in nurseries that were at the museum already. And one of my ideas now is, instead of like doing individual signs, is probably have this with some kind of coloring and do seasonal signs. So this would be the plant community that blooms on a bank there. And right now it's covered in jewelweed, the yellow jewelweed, and also has some goat's beard blooming and some soon-to-be black cohosh blooming. And you can, so I think that what I'm going to do is like just the different beds do seasonal. I really think people have phones now. If they're really curious about something, they could just look it up on their phones. A lot of young kids, that's all they do, is they look things up on their phones. So I'm going to try doing the idea of a community rather than individuals. And this is a sign, a plant label that I just wanted to show you how old this is. And I have some that are older than this, but this is just aluminum siding. And you take 10 snips and you cut them into the shape you want, and you write on them with number 2 pencil. And I have lost and killed more plants in my yard, and I'll find the labels years later. They'll heave out of the ground, but it doesn't come off. If you're just wanting to, for your own personal use, so you can remember what the name of the plant is. And because this was 2006 and it's been outside since then. So, and then what I've done too is I save all these labels. I take an eraser, I erase it off, and I reuse them. So I really like these just for marking things that for my own identification. I'm still flummoxed by signs. I like the information signs. And people that want to have plant ID, I think it's really difficult because the plants in the museum garden are moving around on their own. And so I can't be running around putting signs all over the place. And so I'm going to keep working on just the idea of a plant community sign. That's it.
Up at the top, you should have a stop screen share.
Okay, done.
Okay. So you said we don't have Beth again then?
Becky.
Becky's on vacation, and I just wanted
Becky.
her to explain how she had, I don't know that, which company she used for those signs. It was supposed to be permanent, and I don't know, I do know that she laminated the others.
Okay. Yeah, Sign Spot is the one that we're going to be using for our Wong Park sign. So we're still working on that. I need to see if there's anybody else in the chapter that can help us with the design work in that. And I'll probably put that in one of the, our listserv and that, then asking for help with that. Does anybody have other experiences of their own of using signs of particular companies or any other advantages, disadvantages of certain things? Because all of us have different experiences in that, which is good. Because you could pick and choose then what you'd like to try out.
Brenda, I've used that Paw Paw Everlasting Label Company,
Mhm.
and they have a pretty good product. And if you use a China marker, it'll last for a couple of years. But the problem is that they're kind of little, and they blend in with the vegetation so well that it's very easy to step on them. And whenever I have anybody mulch my my beds, I don't know, they bury them or they take them out, or I don't know what they do with them, but they're constantly being lost. So I guess if you spend more money on them, I guess maybe you take better care of them. Or if they're bigger, you take better care of them. But my ground is so rocky that the ones that have two stakes, I can't get them in the ground because they always hit a rock and they're kind of lightweight. So I just always get the ones with the one stake, and then you can put it in the ground in several places and find some place where it'll go into the ground. They're very lightweight, but I guess they're handy if you don't mind losing them, because they get stepped on and get lost pretty easily.
Thank you. Anybody else have any experiences that they'd like to pass along?